Hey everyone, it's Synthesizer back again with another video. Today I'm excited to start a new series called Sound Design Saturdays. Now I'm going to just be talking about all sorts of different sound design topics. I hope to do this maybe once or twice each month, and of course they'll be out on Saturdays. And they're going to be a little bit of a mix of kind of formal and informal. And I'm just going to show you the types of sounds that I work on at any given time. It's kind of going to give you a snapshot into what I'm working on and just the experiments I often conduct to create cool sounds and the things I learn along the way. And of course, I hope to give everybody all sorts of new knowledge, and hopefully we have fun with it, open up some discussions on how to create some cool sounds, and just generally have fun with things. I really want to get back to some of the roots of this channel, which was sound design and just creating the coolest sounds I can possibly imagine. Today I'm going to explore how to create string sounds using Serum. Now, Serum is limited in the sense that you're never going to create exact string sounds with a synthesizer. There's no replacement for real strings. There's lots of cool sample libraries you can use, but I think there's some cool ways you can at least emulate the sounds which give you a nice string comparable sound. Now, I'm going to show you 3 different presets, and we're going to just talk about them and just what makes them sound the way they do. And I'm going to show you some cool tricks that I've learned over the past few years, and hopefully you get something out of this. Now, you'll notice that this is from a preset pack called Synth Pop Sounds. It is not out yet, and if you would like early access to this, on my Patreon, I will be starting to give away some of these sounds a lot earlier than some of my other preset packs. You can join my Patreon page for a couple dollars a month, and that gives you access to at minimum 10 to 15 sounds a month, and they are essentially presets from my upcoming packs. This will be available for free as I release all of my presets for free. However, if you want early access and don't want to bother creating these on your own, then I highly recommend you join my Patreon page just for a couple dollars. It really helps me out and gets you early access, like I said. Otherwise, you'll have to wait quite a while. I don't anticipate this whole preset pack will be done for another 5 to 6 months at least, so well into 2025. But let's get into these sounds and let's just kind of listen to this first one, simply named Strings 1. Now this sound does have a synth vibe to it. Now, what do I mean by that? It's not exactly strings, and you might be thinking like, okay, why are you watching this? I could create comparable synth sounds. Well, I think as you'll see as we go through the 3 presets that they'll get increasingly more realistic, you could say, that they get closer and closer to actual strings. But this first sound is really kind of that synthesizer string type of sound, right? So something from the 80s type of sound, and this is why it's from Synth Pop Sounds, kind of giving us that 80s vibe. Now, how did I create it? I was playing around, and one of there's a couple of key elements in creating string sounds, and I found that having kind of a soft oscillator, and by that I mean no hard lines. As you can see, they're very, very soft kind of lines like you would see in a sine wave, but at the same time, they do need some element of grit to them. Otherwise, it's just a basic sine. It's not going to give us any sort of those higher kind of frequencies that you need as well. So, as you see, I do have this saw or this sine sub, and that's adding a little bit of that depth to it. And you don't need this, as you can hear. It sounds just as good on its own, but it adds a little bit of that depth. And the other thing is I have this noise oscillator. Again, adding more of that depth and some of that white noise as well. So all of these are sent through the filter. Now, if I were to cut down this filter, really doesn't sound like strings much anymore, just like a filtered sound. Fundamentally, strings have those higher frequencies, especially like violins, which is kind of what we're associating here with strings in general here. Obviously, we have that little bit of sub to kind of give us maybe a little bit more of the other types of strings that you would hear, but you really want to have kind of a big sound here, so a combination of different strings. As you can see, there's a bunch of voices of unison. Again, adding that dimension is really important as well. Now the envelope here, this is a key element that you'll see basically in all of these, is the attack here. When we think of a string sound, it has that attack, that kind of slow attack. Otherwise, you'd have that transient, which does come into play somewhat in different types of string sounds. You know, those kind of like plucky staccato strings, which we'll see. But in this situation, I wanted more of a kind of like a orchestral type of sound. Lastly, I just want to talk about how one is raised an octave, giving us that sound, and then this one, again, giving us all that lower end. It's starting to feel a little empty without the others, you know, the other. Although this works too if you really need it to just to be more violin-like. But if you want a bit of a fuller sound, I recommend leaving these in here. Effects here are super simple. You can see there's some reverb, delay, and a little bit of EQ. I kind of up the shelf here on this one and cut out some of these very, very lows. Not completely, because I wanted some of those lows to stay through, but just a little bit. This next string sound is pretty similar, but has its subtle differences. So let's take a look and listen. So as you can hear, it's more of a staccato sound, not completely, but a little bit of a different character, and you can see a lot more movement here. I do it through these LFOs here. As you can see, these wavetables are really moving quite a bit. If I were to bypass all of these, very, very stagnant. This kind of has a little bit of that harpsichord kind of, that instrument feel, so it's not completely stringy, but still got some of that string element to it. Again, a little bit of sub here. In this situation, you can really miss it without the sub. That adds a lot more depth here. And again, I kept the same noise here. These oscillators, again, custom oscillators. I don't quite remember where I got them. Could have been from a different preset and I just kind of liked them and I started adapting things. Not quite sure. This situation, I have only one voice of unison. If we were to up these, you know, that works as well. So I kind of kept this just in one because I wanted a little bit of a narrower sound. That said, I do have the hyper doing some of the work here. Delay and reverb, and again, the EQ is boosting up those highs. Again, same principle with this envelope here. And again, have the cutoff way up there. Really got that hall sound to it. If we take off the reverb, still has that hall sound, and that is helped by this hyper here. But really unique kind of wave shapes here that are really kind of transforming things and adding that instability to it as well. This last sound is a technique I learned pretty recently. I unfortunately forgot which video. I would really like to shout out the creator of this type of sound. Unfortunately, I just completely forgot to note down how they created it, so I apologize, but I wanted to kind of show you how to create this one, and it's really the most realistic of the string sounds I find. And this sound is created basically using this one effect, and you wouldn't believe the effect it has. So let's just hear it. As you can hear, it really has that nice staccato kind of sound to it. A great string emulation here. So let's take a look at it. And real quickly here, I'm going to show you the most important part of this, which is this reverb filter. If I were to take this off here, all of a sudden, all the character of the strings is gone, and with it back on, that's the most important part of this entire sound. As you can see here, I'm using a couple of interesting shapes. So this one here is the basic saw, but this one here is from the digital, is Ike and has kick. Moved up to about over here. So you can see it kind of changes up the sound when you move it. The envelope here is pretty simple. It's not fully sustained. The thing that really makes it staccato is this LFO, which is attached to the level. So the levels going up and down on both oscillators. And then I have it ending here. So it's on the envelope here, so it doesn't loop. And then it's just this kind of like singular LFO, right? And then it opens up the cutoff, and then that's it. As you can see, it has a bit of a compression here, a little bit of reverb in the Q, but this filter here, this reverb filter through the miscellaneous tab here is what gives it that amazing sound. As you can hear, it essentially kind of sets the cutoff here to a certain spot, and then it gives it that character of that cutoff area. So if I were to move this, all of a sudden you're losing it again. But around this 40 hertz, really, really amazing sound. Again, if you know the person who created this preset, please let me know. I completely blanked, and this was maybe about 4 or 5 months ago that I saw this technique, and I really want to share their whole video if possible. And if you know it, please let me know down below, and then I could link it because they did a great job of creating this. I adapted it slightly, but the principle there is from their video. Regardless, these are kind of the sounds I'm working on right now through these kind of string sounds. I have a lot more to show you through these synth pop sounds as well, but I kind of wanted to start off these Sound Design Saturdays with just the ideas of what I'm coming up with right now and what I'm working on. Kind of gives you insight into what's coming up in the future and what you can expect for free through my website. Of course, I'm open to all sorts of topics, and I'm going to be doing more experimental videos as well, where I just kind of play around with different techniques and see what I can create, and then hopefully give you some ideas. Let me know down in the comments if you have any ideas on any sound design videos you want to see on these Sound Design Saturdays, and then I will be glad to at least look into them and then see if I can do them for you. As always, I would love to hear your comments on what you think of this video and kind of get some discussions on how you like to create sounds and what are your techniques for creating kind of string sounds if you have any. Love to hear them, love to kind of share with the community. So I hope you all enjoyed this new series, and I'll see you all next time.